Under the drifted hollows of a frozen forest, the lynx cub lay curled into itself, every breath a trembling whisper against the roar of the storm. The wind howled like an angry spirit, whipping crystalline shards of snow into his fur, each one a tiny dagger. His stomach twisted with hunger and fear, muscles quivering as instinct screamed to find warmth. He was alone, no mother's purr, no littermate's soft nudges, only emptiness and white infinity. Tiny paws tucked beneath his chest, he listened for any sign of life beyond the gusts, a distant crack of ice, the faint sigh of collapsing branches. But nothing stirred. Would he freeze here, a ghost lost to the endless cold? Before dawn's pale light, he caught a faint echo of crunching steps, larger footprints trudging through the drifts. Curious and desperate, he staggered toward the sound, each step a battle against the biting wind. Through the swirling veil, a shadow emerged, a dog, her coat matted with ice, dragging a broken leg through the snow. Was she a phantom? Her muzzle lowered in exhaustion, yet something in her eyes glowed with stubborn fire. She paused, lifted her head and found him in the squall. Their eyes met, two strangers bound by fear, questions hanging between them. What had driven her to this wasteland? Why had she not turned away? In that fragile instant, suspicion warred with necessity. She bared a frosted fang. He hissed, claws scraping the pale ground. Yet as the temperature plummeted, survival's colder logic took hold. Neither could endure alone. The dog lowered her head, a slow bow of truce, and he edged closer, paws slipping on ice. Each movement was measured, tense. When she finally shifted, revealing the small hollow beneath her ribs, he saw the emptiness of hunger mirrored in his own belly. Then, as if sensing a kindred soul, she had curled around him in a protective arc. His heart thundered. Could an injured stray and a wild cub forge an alliance that would outlast the storm? Night descended with a sudden snap of ice, and the forest fell silent under a heavy blanket of snow. The dog nestled atop the cub, her warmth seeping into his chilled bones. He felt her steady heartbeat, a drum of life against the suffocating cold. Outside, owls hovered and wolves howled distantly, but inside their fragile shelter there was only breathing, a shared promise to endure. Darkness pressed in from all sides. His mind drifted between dreams and consciousness, wondering, would dawn reveal salvation or final stillness? But each time he stirred, he felt her nudge him closer, a living ember against the void. They stayed that way until the first pale glow touched the treetops. He woke to the crunch of snow shifting above them. Her laboured panting brushed against his ears. When he dared to open his eyes, he saw a beam of light slicing through the branches. Someone was approaching. A hand brushed snow away from the dog's flank. The ranger's torch painted the world in harsh gold and black. Both animals froze, hearts thundering. Would he turn back in fear or thrust them into a new battle? Kneeling, he whispered soft words, though neither could understand. He gently probed the dog's fractured leg and then peered at the cub, tiny claws curled against his palm. Something in that frozen tableau stunned him. Here were two unlikely friends who had saved each other's lives in the depths of despair. He couldn't leave them behind. At the clinic, the harsh lights felt alien. The dog lay on a cot, fur shaved and wounds cleaned, while the cub paced in a cage beside her, green eyes flicking with distrust. Hands hovered, ready to separate them for treatment and rehabilitation. He watched the cub rigidly recoil when the vet approached. Would they force him apart? Late that evening, with the dog's leg bandaged and the cub refusing to, Ranger asked to move the cub into the same enclosure. Head lowered, the cub darted forward and curled against the dog's side. Institute rules be damned. Their bond was a lifeline neither would relinquish. As the door clicked shut, the cub exhaled a chirp of relief, and the dog's slow tail wag seemed to say, "We survived together." Weeks passed, and the dog learned to stand again, though she never fully ran. The cub grew strong, muscles coiling beneath his spotted coat. Staff debated sending him back to the wild, but each time they tried, he slipped away under moonlight and returned, skirting through shadows to his dog's crate. He tapped the glass with a claw until they let him in, and they'd share a meal of kibble and fish oil, side by side. Even as strangers entered the room, the cub snarled only at them, never at her. His devotion was unwavering. In return, she offered him soft nudges and the occasional gentle nip when his enthusiasm got too wild. they became the clinic's legend, two souls intertwined beyond the reach of nature's customary rule. A kind farmer arrived with a promise, a tranquil pasture, a barn warmed by straw, and fields to roam. When they opened the trailer, the dog stepped onto soft grass for the first time in months, her battered paws sinking into the new world. The cub bounded forward, fine-tailed and curious, only to pause and look back. She remained at his side as always. Days turned to weeks. The dog's grey hairs thickened around her muzzle, but her eyes still glowed with acceptance. The cub learned to stalk through reeds and climb low branches, yet he never strayed beyond sight. In the evenings they'd nap beneath the same oak, bodies pressed together in silent vigil, memories of cold nights fading before the warmth of dawn. Years drifted by like petals on a stream. The cub matured into a powerful lynx, silent and majestic, still drawn to the dog's side. She slowed with age, favouring a sunlit patch of grass while he stood guard. When her breaths became shallow and rattled, he lay beside her, purring a soft rhythm. On a serene spring morning she did not rise. The cub remained at her flank through the golden hours, ears flat, gaze unwavering. When the farmer buried her under a young pine, he circled the mound in his silent, proud stride and then vanished into the forest's edge, leaving behind a single tuft of fur atop her grave. Some morning he will return. Until then, their story endures as proof that family is chosen in the deepest cold and brightest warmth alike. Weeks turned to months, and the farm became more than a refuge. It became their quiet kingdom. The dog, whom the farmer named Ember, took to resting near the porch, where sunlight spilled across the wooden planks like spilled honey. Ash, as the cub had come to be called, prowled the perimeter with silent precision, his tufted ears twitching at every sound. Though his body had grown sleek and powerful, his heart remained tethered to the creature who had once shielded him from death. Every morning he would drop leaves, feathers or pebbles at her paws like offerings, as if he still owed her his life and was repaying it in quiet tribute. He never played with the balls of yarn the farmer's children tossed toward him. He ignored the tempting treats and toys. His favourite pastime was nudging Ember's tail with his snout, pouncing gently on her ears, or curling beside her with his massive paws tucked beneath her chin. When she limped toward the water trough, he would flank her like a soldier, his body a living shield against imagined threats. Their communication had no words, no commands, just glances, body shifts, subtle gestures honed over seasons of shared hardship. Visitors often asked how it all began. The farmer would simply smile and gesture to the old pine under which a stone marked the place where Ember now slept. "And that's where love lives," he would say, and though no one quite understood, they nodded as if they did. Ash still returns. On moonless nights, he appears at the edge of the trees, eyes glowing like lanterns. Sometimes the next morning, the farmer finds feathers arranged in patterns or a small twig circle left at Ember's grave. No one sees him come or go, but they all know he never really left. He just watches now, guarding the memory of the one who first warmed him in the snow.